Hello, Tom Levecchia here with the latest and special edition of the Armchair NBA. We have a very, very special guest today. And before I introduce him, I want to say I did a full episode on his book, The Olive Branch, the 36 Rules of Bosses. Him and I spoke afterwards. I missed the mark on some stuff, so some stuff I could have went deeper on. That's why I asked him to come today. RJ Roger not only is an accomplished author, but he's also has a great YouTube channel, Black Handprint Mafia. We're going to put a link below. One of the best mob podcasts or YouTubes, or whatever you want to call it, out there. RJ Roger, welcome to the Armchair NBA. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, Tom. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the invite. I appreciate it. I know we've been talking back and forth for a while, so I'm glad we can finally sit down together. And again, you did one of the best I've seen reviews of my book. I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. I shared it with everybody. I thought it was great.
God bless. And just so you know, it's an unsolicited review. I'm a fan of the show. We're colleagues, but I'm a fan of his. I'm comfortable saying that. So we're gonna jump. Right in. And what made you write the book, The Olive Branch, 36 Rules of Bosses?
Well, so I'm a long time interest in studying the mob.
Nice.
I grew up watching it every single day because my parents were really big into mob movies, and I grew up in like deep poverty where we didn't have cable or things like that. We just had like old VHS tapes, and we had a VCR and a little television, and I used to just watch these old as a little kid, as a real little kid that probably shouldn't have even been watching this stuff. I used to just watch it. I'd rewind them and watch them again. So I just had an early life interest in it. So I was always had an interest in the mob, but never had a plan to write a mob book or do anything in the mob genre. It was just like a personal interest.
Yeah.
So after I finished college, and I was always into like studying like psychology, and I used to read a lot of like Robert Greene was one of my early life heroes, where I used to read a lot of his work for years. I just studied Robert Greene, like 48 Laws of Power, and some of the works that, there you go.
I'm halfway through Laws of Human Nature.
I got that one too, sitting up there somewhere.
Beautiful.
It's a good one. But yeah, I've studied a lot of his stuff, and I was always a writer, but never had plans on writing stuff like this. But then one day I was just sitting in my basement and I was watching Casino.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I saw this crazy thing that this Joe Pesci character in Casino did. It will look like crazy to just someone who's watching it. But I don't remember the scene, but I just remember that it had this really intricate thing, like almost like a teaching you could really learn behind it. Yeah. And that's what prompted this book. I just thought to myself, wow, I wonder how many other things these gangsters do that could actually be teachings, life principles that regular people could use. Yeah. And I was and that's what made me start looking into it. And then lo and behold, that's what became The Olive Branch.
Now, what's more of an obscure mob? Because you remember VHS growing up, we actually had to borrow cable from the neighbor for a while because we didn't have a lot of money growing up either. But with VHSs, you had to go to like the local store, and then you were limited by if you could even have the money to rent whatever you could rent. What was an obscure mob movie, or maybe not as popular mob movie that was one of your favorites growing up?
Well, see, that's the thing. I only watched the more popular ones because I didn't even have the VHS ones that you go to the store and buy. I had the VHS ones that when you're illegally you're hitting record, you have it on it's playing on TV.
Movie theaters, they would set them up. Yeah.
So it was like recorded, and then my family would borrow them from other people. So, I grew up.
How about this? Nevertheless, what's your favorite mob movie of all time?
Probably Godfather 2.
Okay.
I thought that was fascinating. I thought that was kind of a really good look at kind of going back when it had like them coming over from Sicily, kind of
Yeah.
showed that like the beginning, all like the rags all the way until the riches. I
Yeah.
think Donnie Brasco's really good because it shows
Nice.
how the mob kind of more is on a realistic standpoint. People think
Yeah.
that, at least from my research, I never saw in my research a lot of mob guys were very, very rich and wealthy and driving around in fancy cars and stuff
Yeah.
like that. The bosses, yes, but most people who were in the mob, just as like associate soldiers and even capos to a certain extent, they
Yeah.
lived in apartments. They had the same struggles everybody else had. They weren't these super rich, wealthy guys. And
Yeah.
Donnie Brasco shows that a lot. How you're living in an apartment, you're struggling. Even the capo was struggling to make what he had to turn in. I think he had to turn in 50,000 every month, and they were
Yeah.
struggling to turn that in. So I think that's a good a good depiction of what it really of more like what it really is.
Now, you weren't a casual, like academic kind of guy where you're like, hey, I like the mob stuff and I'll study it, criminology in college. You're over 100 Cosa Nostra books at this point, correct?
Oh, I've read, but see, yeah, well, I read a lot. I've read hundreds and hundreds of books in my life,
Yeah.
but academically, my studies are in business. I'm a business major.
Yeah.
I have my MBA just like you. So I've studied business more. And to be honest, I wasn't even like a kind of guy that really read true crime.
Yeah.
I was more into like psychology
Yeah.
and history and but I have I've studied the mob, greatly, like deep.
Yeah. All right.
Mhm.
Which brings us to the olive branch and the 36 rule of bosses. Just picture the cover. I'm going to drop a link below. You guys can get it. It's easy to get on Amazon or wherever you get your books these days. And the official title is the olive branch, 36 rules of bosses. And, it's a nice quick read. I myself tend to, Laws of Human Nature, great book. I got to chop it up. I have ADD, but your book I sat in one sitting, and again, it's just I just think you're gonna like it. So I want to go through each rule, and I want to hear a little bit about like your thought process in each. Maybe we might not like spend as much on each one because it might take a minute, but let's jump right in. Use rule number one: use a skilled man to your benefit.
All right. Well, I get that from. So if you look at the mustache Pete's versus the what they call the Young Turks, you
Yes.
had these old time guys that I guess you might consider someone like Joe the Boss Mazzaria. He would have been, or Giuseppe Morello. Those older time guys were like more the They called them the mustache Pete's, and
Yes.
they were associated with being married to the old ways of doing things, how they did things in Sicily and stuff like that. And then you
Yeah.
have these up and coming guys. And I
Yes.
talk about, and that, where I talk about what I saw a transformation where they got much bigger, much more powerful was when they were Lucky Luciano, who he was having problems with Don Salvatore Maranzano. He was having
Yeah.
problems with Joe Mazzaria. And a lot of his early problems that started with them, some of his first discussions were, hey, we want you. You're good. You know how to make money, but I don't want those Jewish guys that you hang out with. And he was hanging out with, Lansky and
Yeah.
Bugsy Siegel and guys who weren't Sicilian.
Yeah.
And so what Lucky saw was they know how to make money. These guys know how. He just saw them for their skill set. And
Correct.
he used that to make himself, to enrich himself and make himself more powerful. He didn't see that they're Jewish or they're this or that. He
Correct.
saw they're skilled. I can use that.
He looked at it as a true meritocracy, and that's I think a strong rule in business. The like, sorry. Number two, beware of the kiss.
So what I get that the line out of, when Joe, just before Joe Valachi went in and cooperated and did everything that Joe Valachi did, he had a discussion with Vito Genovese,
Yeah.
and Vito is talking in a very kind of charming, seductive way, but he gave him a kiss at the end, and Valachi took it as the kiss of death. Um,
Interesting.
and but a lot of times what happens is when people have a way to benefit from you, and especially when you're very successful, when you're a boss, when you're in a position of power, it's very difficult to know who to trust, who not to trust. You start, everybody laughs at your joke when you're the
Yeah.
boss. Everything
Yeah.
you say is funny. Every idea you offer is a good idea. So you're kind of in a difficult position when you're in a position of power, because when people need you, they will say
Yes.
to you what it is that you want.
Want to hear.
So you have to kind of be aware of the kiss, be aware of charm, be aware of seduction, and be able, I mean, as a boss, again, all these rules are things I apply to a boss. A boss has to be very careful not to fall for things like charm, fall for things like um, someone who just always kisses their ass. You have to be very aware of what's real and what's not.
Interesting. This one I like a lot, probably one of my favorites. I always say, as MBAs, we're always taught about when you go into a venture, always have the exit strategy as top of mind. Not that you're looking to go in to get out, but is it something, do you want to maybe sell off the company? Do you want to maybe merge? Might be a hobby, whatever that is. But knowing your time's up is very difficult in life and business, that kind of stuff. Talk to us a little bit about that. If you give maybe a real world example as well.
Yeah. Now, all these rules, I believe, and my
Yep.
theory is these are things I've learned out of research in Cosa Nostra, but they can
Yeah.
they can be applied in business and everyday life. So
Correct.
something like know when your time is up. One of the things that I have found in my research and most of Cosa Nostra bosses is, and that can be applied into real world, is that the boss seems to almost always overstay his welcome. He accomplished everything. He's rich. He's successful. He's the head of the commission.
Yeah.
He has more money than God.
Yep.
And he has the ability to say, you know what? I did it all. I rose from associate to soldier to capo to underboss to boss. I
Correct.
took over, but yet I'm gonna still stay here, even though the soldiers are turning against me. People kind of want a younger leader. People
Yep.
want the new way of doing things. They stay anyway and try to fight when maybe what you should do is accept the success that you had and say, you know what, it's been a great life, and I walk away. And I find that in business sometimes, that when you rise to the top, or anything in life, when people get great success, they keep on going and they try to get more and get more and get more until they fail and they leave feeling miserable, feeling like a failure. So then they become these people who spend the rest of their life chasing it, trying to get back to the top, and they want to say, I just want to get one more and then I'll leave.
Yeah.
But they never actually get it again.
I had the pleasure of interviewing six inducted members into the mob and many associates. And if I can tease out the one thing I learned from all of them, and maybe hindsight's 2020, but every of them was like, I needed another year, or if I just had this one thing and I could have got out, or if I didn't meet this one person because I stuck in the game too long. So that's just one of my favorite. And I think that's one thing to master in your career and in life. And just so you know, guys, there's going to be contradictions, and I call them beautiful contradictions in here. And they'll make sense as we go along. So next, Neil and Kiss the Ring. The boss is the boss.
So one of the things that I have noticed is that a great boss was first a great servant.
Yes.
I've learned that in life.
Yeah.
And when you learn how to, you have to know where you're at in life. So, before you're the boss, you were the guy on the street with the gun. You were the unmade guy saying, I want to make my bones and I want to get made. And what you want to do is you're doing your capo, or someone gives you an order, and you shouldn't, when he sends you out on a mission, you really shouldn't say, this guy, he's making me go out and do all this, because typically everything your boss is telling you to do, he did that before
already. Yeah.
And that applies in real life just as well. If you work in business, and I've done this, I have started as a temp employee out of college and rose all the way up to executive ranks in an organization. But I always respected the CEO, the president, the people at the top, because what I noticed is when I talk to the president, the CEO, the owner of a company, he always has a story where he says, I used to mop floors. I started out in the mailroom, so you should give your boss, you should kneel and accept the fact that you're that you are being taught, you're being schooled. You should, and a boss, a great leader will accept that role and say, my time right now is to serve, not to lead. It's to serve and to learn. And that's how you'll know when you are in the leadership position, when you are the boss, that's how you'll know how to be a leader, because you were once in the same position that these people who you're leading are in.
Yeah, I call that a servant leader, and that's a good manager style or good leadership style to roll out. Okay, this one I like a lot too, though. Number 5, mix with the soldiers, keep a pulse on your organization.
Yeah, so that is, a lot of times, like, you can use Frank Costello as an example to that. He really didn't want to be, he was stuck with that position. I mean, he was kind of thrown in there because Lucky Luciano was in exile, and Vito had his problems. So he kind of just had to do it, but he didn't really he never really wanted to be the boss. He had everything. He was more of a business guy that wanted to make money. And to be honest, once he became that successful, he didn't even really want to be around quote unquote Cosa Nostra guys.
Yeah.
So he was kind of too distant from what he was leading. And it started to cause problems in his family where there were things going on that he didn't see. And even in the real world of business and stuff like that, if you're an owner of a company, if you're a leader of the company, but you're seldom in the office, you're seldom there, you don't know what's going on, you're trusting of other people, it's easy. And you don't even have to be the owner. You could just be in a managerial seat and you're leading a group of people. The people, if you're not hands-on with your team, it's really easy for them to start conspiring against you, going to HR, going to the boss saying, this guy's never even here. He doesn't talk to us. He never calls meetings. We haven't gotten a review in forever. So, and now they're working against you. Before you know it, you're being sat down and you lost your position. And the guy that organized it, he's now where you were at. He's the boss now. So when you are, hands-on and you're there, that's how you can, kill issues before they get real big.
This next one, many would argue was the kind of downside of the Cosa Nostra, but also when I look at organizations or read about organizations that have failed or underperformed, they generally don't live by the rules that are set out. So number 6 is invest totally, die by the rules that you live by.
So when Lucky decided, you know what, these mustache Pete's, they're just not going to work. What I have noticed is we see the successes of trying to kill the boss, but a lot of times the people who were conspiring in the background, they didn't make it. Okay.
Correct.
You have to, when you make a decision on what you want to be in life, whatever it is, it can be an athlete, it can be a businessman, it can be someone like me, a writer, a researcher, a guy like you who's a business investor. You got to decide, because what I have found with success comes when you put it all in. You can't be 50%, 40%. You can't be conservative. You got to say, this is what I believe in, and this is what I'm going for. And you got to invest all of you, that you are as a person, your money, everything that you have. If you're not willing to put it all in, invest totally, and I say die by the rules you live by, die for what you believe in. If it's building a business, I believe this product is going to work. If you're not willing to go all the way in, you're never going to get there. It's just never going to work. So in the case of Cosa Nostra, if you want to be the boss, if you want to go for the top, what I have found is you got to be willing to die for it. And if you're not willing to die for it, it's going to kill you.
That's a great point. I like this next one. Be vigilant of your rivals.
A lot of times your rival, unfortunately, this is one of the sad things about life, but it's just the nature of human beings, self-preservation, oftentimes the people who are very close to you are going to be the ones that stab you in the back. They're going to be the ones. A lot of bosses were killed by their underboss.
Yeah.
That's very common.
Correct.
Typically, your enemy is the guy right next to you. It ain't the guy who at a distance who you're always protecting yourself from. The guy, your rival is typically the last person you ever would have expected to be. You baptized his kids. That's your rival, typically. So you got to kind of, but once you can identify your rivals, you have to kind of be vigilant of who is your rival, what's going on around you, who's your competition, stuff like that. So in the world of business, you know, if you have a bakery, you have to be conscious of, you know, how they making the bread down the street. What are they charging? What are their prices? You know, if you're a car, you know, whatever you're doing, if you make pizzas, you got to find out. You have to sneak into your competitor's pizza shop, and you got to buy a large pizza and take it home, and you got to taste it, and you got to tell yourself the truth. Is it better than yours? You know, you have to be vigilant on what your competition is, what's going on around you. And if you're not, if you just think I can sit in my cafe and do my own thing, your rival's going to take you over.
Now, again, we talked about some contradictions, and again, I believe in them because if you read through and navigate, it's got to be done. So, but earlier we kind of want to follow the rules, right? But now number 8 is break the rules. Can you elaborate? I want this to be a 2-part one. Can you elaborate that a little bit? And then number 2 is I want you to maybe give like a mob example, but also give like a corporate or career example as well. Because I want really people to internalize this and use this towards their own careers.
So everything in life is situational. What makes sense today in a certain situation might not apply in a situation tomorrow.
True.
So there are in the mob, let's say, you know, one of the ways to get upped from my research is that you got to be a good earner.
Correct.
So it's a you deal, you die rule.
Yep.
So, but if you have a way that you can make $1 million a month dealing, all your boss wants you to do is turn in the envelope.
Correct.
Now, so you're breaking the rule to get upped. You want to become a capo. You want to take over a crew. So your boss needs, for you to be even considered by the boss, that envelope has to be fat every month. And however you turn that envelope in, he's not typically asking you questions. He just, well, he's earning money for the family. He's not getting whatever he's doing. He better not get caught because he'll be killed. But so sometimes you break rules to advance yourself. You have to be very, very cautious, very careful. Like there's a rule in the mob that a boss is untouchable. You can't kill a boss.
Correct.
How do you become a boss if there's only one boss in your family and your goal is to be the boss? In Cosa Nostra, they broke the rules all the time to be the boss. John Gotti killed the boss to be the boss. He broke a rule. John Gotti broke a rule to become the boss, right? So sometimes, you know, you have to, you know, because the rules are designed to protect the boss, but not. So the boss is putting in rules that will hurt, that will kind of keep the people who want to rise up at a safe distance to protect himself. So he's not putting in rules that are overly advantageous to you. He's putting in the rules that are advantageous to him and the organization.
Good point. This one is an old school one. I like it. Dress with dapper appeal.
You know, I can tell you, even just for me as an example, when I'm dressed in, you know, I'm largely a t-shirt and a jean guy, but I know my time and my place. So I know that when I'm well dressed, I talk more appropriately. I carry myself. I feel more powerful. I feel more. I feel better about myself. But what I notice about people is we are very much people of our eyes. You know, we will we will treat a person differently if they look the part, if they look like the boss. You know, the way you carry yourself is how a person's going to treat you. If you walk around in a really tattered way, you're going to be treated that way. If you walk around and you take your appearance very serious, then you'll be treated with more seriousness. And there's never a time, I talk about this in the book, you can be doing a drug deal in a pissy alleyway. You're dressed up in that alleyway, the people going, what's he do? That man's powerful. So people will treat you in accordance to your appearance. And I find that a man that takes his appearance seriously, you know, he takes himself seriously.
That's a great point. So next one, kill the boss. This was one that obviously give a Cosa Nostra example, but give kind of a business career example, because this was one that I don't think I gave justice to.
So when I say kill the boss, is so I again the whole book is written in an allegorical way. So I look at it like
Yeah, we don't need anybody killing the bosses and blaming on the two idiot MBAs.
No one should kill their actual boss with a gun, but you might have to eliminate your boss's position if you aspire to be the manager of of your department that you work for. So if you work in the mail room, and the manager makes twice what you make and you want to get that salary, and the first thing you're going to have to do is learn everything. Robert Greene talks about this a little bit too. He talks about I believe it's in the 48 Laws, but he talks about how and I think Machiavelli does too in The Prince. Machiavelli talks about after you have learned all you can learn from your boss, you have no more use for
them anymore. Yeah.
Kill him.
Yeah.
And take what's yours now, because now he can't do nothing for you. So let's say in the business world, I talked about earlier, we just talked about how you have to kneel and kiss the ring. But what if there's no more reason to kneel? You've learned him, you've all his contacts, you have them now too. Everybody who the banker that he uses, you have that access to him too. You have access to all the suppliers. You might have to maneuver against your boss and get your boss out, and so you can take his job. If you're willing to always be number two, your boss is never just going to voluntarily step down. He didn't become the boss because no boss becomes a boss because he's, not the kind of guy that wants to hold on to power. You have to at some point take your boss if you want to be at the top position.
Good point.
You don't kill your boss.
Yeah.
But you take his job.
No, that's what the truth of the matter is, whether you're in business and you're an entrepreneur, your competitors, that's your rival, you're in corporate. If you get promoted, it could mean as much as 100,000 more a year. You know what? This stuff is material. This stuff matters. So if you can navigate your career a little better by reading this book, it's something to be learned and something to live by. Accept risk. This is one that a lot of people talk about, but it's a lot harder. And I'll give you some quick example. Then I want you to jump in. Is I do, some episodes on side hustles, how to invest money passively, how to generate this and that, and blah, blah. And I'll have like some really serious guys call me up. These are guys that might be, former convicts, or they may got in trouble, or like they're big burly guys, and they're calling me up like, Tom, I'm scared to leave my painting job because if I lose everything, I lose, I got child support, or I got a wife, or I got and a lot of these guys are not they're not very risk centric. They're more risk averse. And some of the biggest guys that like did crazier shit that you and I can never imagine, but to them is natural. But it's scary to get a loan from the bank. It's scary to set up that business with employees because it is scary. But you say what I always tell them, you got to accept the risk. So talk to us about that, RJ.
Well, to do anything that can make your life better, no matter what it is, if you look for the reasons why it won't work, there will never be a situation where you won't find that answer. It's going to always be there.
Great point.
So what I find is that, you have to, if you're really scared to take the risk, it's probably not something you're that passionate about anyway. So like the things you should really take a risk on, your passion is really behind it anyway, where you don't even almost acknowledge that failure. But when Sammy the Bull was talking just before he told the guys, "We're going to kill Paul." Yeah, he didn't tell the guys in advance who they're going to kill. So they did all that training and preparation. Correct. They did all the training and preparation without knowing who they were going to hit, because they were afraid it would get leaked out. And when Sammy went in, he said, "Listen, we're going to kill Paul. Paul's the hit." if you got to die there, die there.
Correct.
Do not back off of this hit. It doesn't like, and that was the thing. When Gotti and Sammy and the whole team got together, there wasn't a plan to, okay, if it goes wrong, hey, run for cover. It was, we die there because there's no going back. What we're going to do is going to kill us anyway. And
Correct.
when you're really going, and I'm sure you have gone through a time with investments and stuff, you probably had to sit down with the wife and say, hey, I'm about to do something that could affect everything, but this is what I got to do. If you don't take that risk, you're going to always just be somebody that's not that happy because you're going to be doing everybody who is living their dream, they have a significant, amazing story behind them that occurred before the dream came true.
That's true. And powerful of the 36, except Briss is probably one of the more important ones. I like this one also, though. Align with the higher rank, number 12.
Yeah. So a lot of times people try to, if you're constantly around people who you're the senior ranked person, you're the smartest person in the room all the time, you're not around anybody that you have to get around some people who are where you want to be, some people who you can, and I've been that way since I was a kid. When I was just even like 13, 14 years old, I was always kind of around people that, you know, could inspire me, could teach me something. I was never afraid to ask questions. I never feel dumb. If I don't understand something, I'm willing to ask. But when you go around higher ranked people, you're learning something, even if you're not at that rank yet. You're learning something that's going to make you more optimal in the rank that you're in. You're thinking in a way that people above you are going to notice. So I think it's good to get around people that are kind of either going where you want to go or are at where you want to be.
Good point. Good point. Because then you network, you learn how they do things, they learn how you do things. I think aligning with the higher rank is something, whether even if you're in the boss position already, align with other bosses, maybe your senior leadership, and that's a good one. Okay, so
John Gotti was very close with Fatico. He was very close with Della Croce, and these guys were, I mean, John Gotti was leading that crew when he wasn't even a made guy yet. That's not normal. That's not normal stuff. That means this guy really sees something in you, something very promising. So if you were just hanging out with the neighborhood guys every day, then there's no way for the high rank guy to even recognize your talent.
Good point. Number 13, speak nothing, mum's a word.
You know, this is one of the things that I find that seems to be the hardest thing. I feel like controlling the tongue is the hardest thing that humans have the ability to do.
Yeah.
People, you know, I read a quote before, three can keep a secret if two are dead. You know, people have a tough time, controlling what they say, controlling, saying things that, if the fastest way to lose a boss's approval or his belief in you is to leak out proprietary information, confidential information.
Exactly.
What I find that separates, for the purpose of Cosa Nostra and my research, a boss and a soldier, or in the regular world, business world, like a CEO and like an entry-level position, what I find the different is that people in high-ranked positions are able to keep confident. They can be working on an acquisition that's going to affect 300 people's jobs. I have worked in corporations where we were doing offshoring projects where we're going to shut down production and ship all the jobs overseas.
Yeah. And
there's people who know, a small group of people, they're brokering deals with El Paso, and they're saying, hey, we're going to have, but if it got leaked out into the company and 300 people who are working in manufacturing find out, there could be a mass exodus. There could be people who go on strike and they upset your production, and now you can't ship your goods, all kind of things. So being trusted with proprietary information and something that is so juicy to tell, but you don't tell it anyway. That's very important, to just shut your mouth.
That's a great point. Now you get into the big spot. You're running a team. You're running a company. Number 14, impose harsh rules.
You know, one of the reasons that I think Cosa Nostra was so strong for so long is because they had such strong punishments.
Yeah,
There's no coming back from death, you know, and they had,
exactly.
and a lot of the rules were very simple. You do this, you die, and it
Correct.
wasn't just like you hit me. It was things as simple as, oh, you violated a man's wife, you slept with this
Yeah,
woman. So the rule was always, you know, there was never a rule that if you do this, we'll put you on the shelf. They made it
correct.
harsh intentionally. You're dead if you do this.
Correct.
And I find in business or in the real world that, you know, the same kind of strict, you know, people will push the envelope as long as they can push it. So if you don't impose harsh rules, you're going to have a tough time keeping order. I think that's why we're in this informant boom now, where people
Yes.
will inform and they'll cooperate and then live in the same house, stay in the same neighborhood,
Yeah.
go do shows and stuff like that, be on TV, because they don't fear the mob coming to kill them. Yeah.
Good point. That's actually a really good point. But also, you want to avoid routine. Number 15.
Yeah. So a lot of times when someone is when you're doing things, Vito, Tom Rayner, it was a guy named
Yeah.
Tom Rayner.
Arena, yeah.
He was the first guy that he preceded Gagliano.
Galliano,
Yeah, he preceded Gagliano, and Lucky really liked him. They had a good relationship. He talked about this, that he was an honorable Italian, a very good man.
Yeah.
He was cultured, had heritage, but they had to find a way to start a war, so Mazzaria and Maranzano would eliminate themselves.
Yeah.
So he hadn't, and what they knew is there was some stuff going on with Reina, and if they killed Reina, both factions would think that the other guy did it, because Reina was making a move to someone else, so it was kind of in the middle. It was enough going on to make both people think the other person did it. But what Tom Rayner did is every week at the same time, on the same day, he had dinner at his aunt's house. So they knew how to easily kill him. He goes to his aunt's house every Thursday at 7 o'clock. So he was walking out of the house. He even saw Vito and said, "Hey, Vito, how you doing, man?" And Vito just shot him right in the head and killed him.
Jesus Christ. That's actually really
going. So my point is, if somebody is ever going to come against you, they will use your routines to plan how they're going to do it.
And bring you down, yeah.
And bring you down that way. So, yeah.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Keep a stash. And it's interesting. When I interviewed Sammy, number 18 is good up there as well. But number 16 was, Sammy said it, keep money on hand. So when you have opportunities, you have the war chest to make moves and execute. So number 16, keep a stash. Money speaks every language.
You know, that's, you know, Tom, I read an article not long ago that said the average American, I think, has less than $800 in this, and like 70% of this country has like less than $800 or something in the bank.
Ouch.
Like they live a lot of the country now lives hand to mouth. People just spend everything. They have no cash reserves. So when they get into a bond, I can you know, even speak to me when I was younger. I just spent it all, you know, and you don't. But then as you get older, you start thinking, man, you know, I gotta have some cash around for emergencies and stuff like that. So what the mob, when Paul Castellano was arrested in the 85 commission case, the last thing on his mind was paying the $2 million bail. You know, I can, you know, I can pay the bill. When Lucky had his problems, he just, here you go, here you go, here you go. So you have to have cash around because problems will come. And that's in anything, you know. Again, a lot of these rules, I believe you can apply them in real life or not. If you own a home and you have no cash reserves, what are you going to
Correct.
do when the water heater blows? What are you going to do when you get a hole in your roof? A
Yeah.
good opportunity arises when someone says, "Hey, I have this great idea that you can invest in if you would like, but you have no cash." So it's always good to have, there's never enough cash that you can have around.
It's a great point. This one is this one's good. Number 17. Loyalty is a canard, which means rumor. Show none, expect none.
Well, canard has a couple different meanings, but a canard is like a lie or
Oh,
or
okay.
or a false belief or like something you can believe and it's not really like it's an untruth. So
Got
a
it.
lot of people believe in, oh, this person is so loyal to me. This person, again, most people die by someone who they trusted. Most
True.
people are betrayed by, there wouldn't I mean, a enemy can't betray you because you didn't trust them in the first place.
Good point.
The only person that can betray you is someone who you trusted. Loyalty, it's nice to believe in it, but
Yeah.
oftentimes a lot of people seem to be, if you live, especially a powerful person, if
Yeah.
you subscribe real hard to that, you're probably going to be somebody that again, Tom Rayner was again, just before Tom Rayner got shot in the head, he waved at the guy that shot him because he saw his friend. It was
Yeah.
his friend outside the house, and he just said, "Oh, Vito, hey man, how you doing?" And then your head comes off because there was someone needed to advance themselves, and typically humans, again, protect thyself. Self-preservation is how a lot of humans are. I'm loyal up to you meet my price.
Yeah. I like that one. Exactly. Exactly. Well, the next one, and we're tough times, but Sammy highlighted this as well in our interview. And because I asked them, now that you have a media team, you have a team, what do you do? And number 18, pay your soldiers well.
I find that, you know, so part of the reason that people starting to become unnerved with
Yeah.
Frank Costello, why they starting to become unnerved with Paul Castellano, the
Yeah.
underlings, was they felt like the boss has everything, and you keep telling us we can't go out and make money, or we can't go sell these drugs to make some money. We can't, you're taking too much. We're over here starving, and you got it all.
Yeah.
So I find even if you take a little bit less profit,
Yeah.
you're saving by having long-term followings, people who are around you for a long period of time.
Yep.
When you got to keep replacing people, there's a lot of cost associated with that.
Yep.
Even in business, I can tell
Yep.
you for me in business that, it's better to, if you have an employee that makes $40,000 a year,
Yeah.
and they want 45,000 and you or 50,000 and you tell them no and they leave,
Yep.
and now you have to hire somebody else. That
Yep.
person is now a all of the training, associated
Yeah.
with onboarding and all of the quality problems that you're going to have and stuff like that. You pay for that much. I mean, when you have the high turnovers and stuff,
Correct.
you're not helping yourself. You're hurting yourself.
Good
So
point.
you pay people well. They'll work with you long term. They feel like they're getting their part. They feel like you want them to be prosperous too.
Yeah. I always say if like somebody works for you and you don't want them to have a side job if they don't need to. You want them to dress well, you want them to provide for the family, you want them to feel good about their well-being. And it's also, I don't know, maybe it's an ego thing. I look, it's also representative of me. If you're an
Yes.
employee, you're representative of Tom Vecchia. So
Mhm.
I do my best. Not that I'm the biggest payer in the world, but in terms of the positions that we have, I think I pay more than fair. And if they ever need anything, I'm very approachable. And I do like number 18, pay your soldiers well.
Tom, I can
Speak,
tell you anything I've ever done independently even as a writer, when
yeah,
I hire an editor,
Yeah,
Whatever he asks for, I pay him more than
exactly.
than what he wants. I never take anything for free, even if you're offering me a service for
Yes.
free. I will pay anyway. I
Yep.
typically tip well.
Yep.
I've always been a believer that it's easy to say I appreciate. It's easier to say I appreciate you, but you show your appreciation by treating a person with some dignity, and you do it through how you compensate them.
Correct. This one I like because kind of goes along with mixing it up and knowing the pulse of the organization. Number 19, speak the language of a soldier.
Yeah, so Paul, one of the problems that I find that Paul Castellano had is he was this, half your family is in this support what they call the blue collar faction.
Yeah.
You got guys coming up that had a 8th grade education. You got guys who, they're hard knock guys that come off the street. And here you are talking about, hey, I read this article in the Wall Street Journal last night. Like, you're speaking, like, you have to know your audience. You have to know who you're speaking to. When you're speaking above someone's head, you're confusing them in a way that they're distrusting of you. So you have to know how to communicate. If you're leading gangsters, okay, you have a whole 100 gangsters who are following you. They want to believe that you're one too. They don't want to believe that they're following a racketeer, because then they just see you as lunch meat. I can just skin him and I'll take over. So, you want to have the ability to, and that's what Vito Genovese was to that family over Costello. Costello he didn't speak the language of his soldiers. He was a great guy. I got his picture right there. He's one of the, the guys who I really like. He's one of the ones I really respect a lot, but he didn't want to, you're leading a enterprise that's a criminal enterprise, and you have to speak to the language of the people who you're leading, or they're not going to follow you.
Yeah, you're not going
to. The same in business, exactly. And the same in business. I have a high rank position and professionally, and I know when there's a way that you talk when you're in. Just in my whole professional career, there's a way you talk when you're in the boardroom, and there's a way you talk when you're on the the shop floor. And you have to understand who you're talking to.
Sorry, good point. So a little residual cough going. Number 20, take it to the mattress. When it's time to kill everyone.
So there comes a time where there's a lot of, you had all the meetings you could have. You tried to do things the best way that you could possibly do it. You planned. It's not working. There comes a time where you got to, when it's say, what, it's time to, desperate times call for desperate measures. And when you make that decision, you don't stop halfway. So when, like, in a sense of Cosa Nostra, when it was time to kill, when it was time for war, it's all out. There's no more negotiations. There's no more peace. We're hitting the mattresses. We're going to war, and we're not going to stop until there's a winner on one of these sides. Yeah, and it's really the way it is, even in our personal life. If you got problems and that you have to resolve, or you have a problem with someone, or you have a problem in business, or you're having a problem with a supply chain or something, you have to go the whole way, and you have to fight until you succeed. You saw a lot of this in 2008 during the downturn, 2010, where people had to, these businessmen had to do things that they never thought possible. They did mergers, they came together, they took prices that they didn't want to take. They took it to the mattress. They said, hey, we're either going to go bankrupt, or we're going to come up with a way to stay open. Got to do something though, because our backs against the wall, and it's time to go fight. It's time to go figure out, knock on doors all day. We got to get a new account. I got 18 staff members, and I lost 3 major accounts. I'm going to go cold call every day until you have to go, and that's your only way that you're going to be able to keep going.
Good point. And kind of go scorched earth when you have to. Number 21, be honorable. Your word is your bond.
Yeah, so the easiest thing, the hardest thing to build, and the fastest thing to lose is your reputation.
Yeah.
So once you become known for something, it's very hard. It's very very hard to wiggle out of that. If When you're known for being a certain way, you can try for years and years and years to change that belief about yourself, and it's just extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So I find as just a principle that you can apply anywhere in the mob, in real life, on street corners, on anything. You will get ahead much faster by being an honorable, disciplined, kind person. Those people who are just negative all the time, always end running, always gaming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They don't, and I come up in a troubled life. And I
Yeah.
could tell you that there were like drug dealers that used to come over to the house when I'm a kid. And there were these guys that were, listen, if you don't got the money by Friday, I'm gonna, they were these kind of guys but those guys ended up dead. Those guys ended up in jail. Those
Yeah.
guys ended up in a lot of trouble. But the people who kind of took a more honorable approach to how they conducted themselves, that was their saving grace. It seems like being a bully all the time and being a tough guy all the time and an argumentative person all the time has like a success attached to it, but it typically causes more problems than it causes success.
Great point. Now, this is one that in business and in life, there is pain. Number 22, take your bullet. Pain is to be embraced.
So I don't know if there exists. Most bosses were on the street, took a beating before, gave a beating, been shot before, been stabbed, been cut, been beat up by 10 guys, got hit with baseball bats. They took their pain, they took their bullet. And I mean, Lucky had a big scar across his face, and a lot of that's the process to be what you want to be. There you will feel pain, but you have to just accept in that process that, oh man, that hurt, but that's what the boss went through too. That means I'm on the right track. If you don't take a bullet, then you're not then it's likely that you're not going to you're not fighting in no real way to get somewhere. So like in the business world, if you're starting a business and you made it to the end of the year and you broke even, you should be celebrating that, because a
Yep.
lot of businesses lose money the first year.
Yep.
So if you started a business and you're not having to sit down with your wife and say, I got a couple more options, but it's going to be tight this month. Those are things that you should embrace. Those are things that, that you have to say, that means I'm going the right direction, because
Right.
every single businessman and every single person that was fighting for some great success or to get somewhere, they took a lot of pain, a lot of trouble, and you have to just embrace it, and you just got to go through it. It's a teachable moment.
Correct. And without pain, you're not gonna have growth. I like this one from the boss's perspective. Number 23, keep your hands clean. Dirty work is for the underboss.
Well, yeah. So I think Sammy talked about that on your show. I want to say where he talked about when he was an underboss, but he's still going out doing work that he wasn't supposed to be doing anymore.
Correct.
So when you rise up, anytime you're going backwards, it looks like you're going backwards. So if you're on the street, so as far as the mob was concerned, Lucky was sitting in the back seat with Joe Mazzaria having a conversation, and they're arguing. And Joe Mazzaria orders Lucky to go. He wanted him to, I think, kill Maranzano or kill someone.
Yeah.
And Lucky said, "What are you talking about? You mean to tell me I got to be back on the street now with pistols? Like what do you like? I'm not, like that's not me no more. I don't do that. I send someone to go do that. It doesn't mean that you're not capable. It's just beyond the same reason why you started out in the business mopping floors, but now that you own the company, you're not really out on the floor every day mopping floors anymore. Not because you don't know how to use a mop. It's just you graduated from those ranks and you moved up. So when you get there, don't reduce yourself by, don't minimize yourself by going back and doing things. Trust other people to be able to carry out those tasks.
Agreed. In the epic words of Ted DiBiase from WWE, WWF, now it's WWE, every man has a price. Find it and pay
it. You know, some of this stuff sounds terrible as far as humanity is concerned.
All right. That's all right. That's why we like it.
But, you know, I try to look at the world for what it is, not for how I would like for it to be. I know how I would like the world to be, but I also know how it is. And
correct.
A lot of times people have been bought. They've sold out their best friends. They've sold out their partners. They've done things. I mean, look at all these guys that, you know, I think Bill Gates has an interesting history about selling out his friends. Mark Zuckerberg sold out his friends. Steve Jobs sold out his friends. I mean, a lot of times, unfortunately, and a lot of partnerships don't work. In business, a lot of times partnerships do not work. They start out with, hey, you're my buddy, I love you. But then when you start talking turkey, you start talking money, money makes a strange person, Tom. It turns people into a strange person. So yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, you know, you got to be leery too, right? So like if you have a team and somebody works for you, if they're willing to jump ship for Sammy talked about this, for $2,000-$3,000, they're probably not the right person. You know, don't get me wrong, if somebody gets 25, 30, 40,000 a year more, you know, and they're on your team. Now, if they're loyal or if they don't care just about money, they'll come to you and say, listen, I got another opportunity. I got paid a lot more money. What should I do? Right.
Yeah.
Versus if somebody's willing to leave for a very little amount of money, you're right. People will leave.
Now, I want to make a point that finding a person's price isn't always just money, because a rich man is not oftentimes enticed by money.
Good point.
When I say find, every man has a price, find it and pay it. Some people's weaknesses could be a woman. Somebody's weakness could be you know, it's unending. So you find out what a person's, you know, weaknesses are. What's a person weak for? Excuse me. And you use that to get what you want. So Adam Smith was this guy, this great
Invisible Hand, The Economist.
Yeah, Adam Smith, and he wrote this great book called The Wealth of Nations. I'm not sure if you ever read it. Yeah, so
of course it required reading.
Oh, there you go, that MBA student. So, but Adam Smith is kind of responsible for modern day capitalism, right?
Yep.
But one of the things he talked about is that, you know, wealthy people who have so much, an easy way to, you know, for the, you know, to get their money to take care of their social need is to give them what they really want is recognition and praise and glory. So when they say, thanks to you, we can send all these kids to college, and we want to put you on, give you editorial, and we want to, you know, award you in front of all these great people, and we're going to put you on TV. But you can't go to a billionaire and say, hey, I'll give you another billion if you do this. So you find what can you give him to get what you need from him? And that's how it is just in the game of life. It's just, you have to keep finding out what it is that a person's weak for.
Correct.
If you need something from them, supply that need, and then there you are.
Good point. I like this one a lot. Number 25. Take what's yours. Greatness is seized, not given.
Yeah. I find that those people that sit around and wait, it's never going to come.
Yep.
In this world, the squeaky wheel, it gets
grease. That's right.
Yeah. So you gotta go out and you gotta take it, and that's it. When you want something, you gotta take it. No one is. I mean, you got some noble people, sure, but most people are not looking to give up their position. You gotta take it if that's what you want. I can tell you, even with me, with this book that we're talking about, the Olive Branch. You know, I independently published a book. I put my own money into it. I paid my own publishing fees and did all that, but I wanted it to I wanted it to be successful. I wanted it to be published by a major
Yeah.
publisher, and I literally worked for 4 years. I sent that. There isn't there isn't a noteworthy man, Tom, in this
Yeah.
country that I didn't send a copy of that book to.
I love it.
I
I
sent the
love
book
it.
to everybody in Congress. I sent the book to everybody, you know. So,
Love it.
but I had the the desire meant so much for me that I worked it until I found someone to help me. So it took me 3 or 4 years. It
Yeah.
took me a long time, and then fortunately now it's good. We're republishing it. I got a
God
big
bless.
publisher. I got a really big. I got a traditional big five publisher. I got
God
a
bless.
man. Yeah, I got a great book packager, the top book packager in the world.
Nice.
Top designers. I got the best editor in the world. I got all the best people now helping me. So the book's being republished, as I talk
Nice.
about it on my channel a lot, called The Don. So I'm republishing the book this year called The Don. It has 7 new chapters and stuff. But
Oh, wow.
but yeah, so you know, the funny thing is when you reviewed the book, you said, I wish it had more stories and
Yeah.
more. That's all. So we added in, that's what we added into the book. So the new book coming out will have all these great stories and stuff like that. So it's being published a little bit different. But my point is, it wasn't, if I just sat back and just waited for somebody to come say, oh, I'm gonna, you know, hey, well, no, I had to work it. I had to like work for years to try to get help with the book to put it into a bigger platform with
Correct.
bigger names. So,
and that's an accomplishment itself. I know publishing is a tough game.
oh,
Well, number 26, when you shoot the boss, shoot him in the face.
That's one, and that's the only one that I
got wrong. I got wrong.
I don't know if it was just, no, you got it right technically, but it just has
Yeah.
a little bit more of a figurative meaning. So what I mean is this, is that a boss will respect you when you give it to him straight. You know, one thing that, you know, ranking people don't like is a lot of fluff and bullshit. You know, they don't, that's the easiest way to turn them off. They don't get as, you know, they're more straight shooters in the sense. So your boss was you at a time. So
Correct.
if you're a soldier and you're talking to your boss, you can't be a boss without being a soldier first.
Yeah.
So he knows how you think. He understands what you are. You should not, and in the business world, if you're a secretary and you're talking to the owner, you know, the owner started at the bottom also.
Yeah.
He came out of poverty. He worked his way through graduate school, got his MBA. He took a loan against his house, put the house up, and put the money in business. He lost and he stressed every day for 10 years to make the business profitable. He has all of his assets tied to the business. He went through all the pain you could go through.
Yeah.
You should have enough respect for him to shoot him in the, you know, to give it to him straight, shoot him in the face. So in the mob, just before they killed Mazaria, before they killed Tom Rayner, before they killed Maranzano, Lucky ordered it. He got to get it in the face. That's the rules. He's a boss.
Yep.
Dying in Cosa Nostra didn't really mean that much. It's almost like it's just part of the
process. Rite of passage. Yeah.
Just part of the process. But if you were killed in a cowardly way, sleeping, laying down, someone shoot you in the back, a boss was such a serious thing in Cosa Nostra,
correct,
that he should be killed with honor. Shoot him in the head with his eyes open. A boss deserves that respect to not be snuck up on and killed. So Lucky said he's got to get it in the face. Shoot him in the face. He deserves that for what he has given to our life, for what he has given to our culture, for our heritage. He has to get it in a way of respect. So that rule just means give your boss respect. Give him what is due to him. Don't talk about him in the hallway. Don't sit in the bathroom with Sally and say, oh, this mother, whatever, he's taking all the money for himself. Don't talk in the dark of your boss's ear. If you got something to say, go have enough respect and say, hey, can I talk to you? And he'll respect you more for that.
Good point.
So that rule just means to be a respectful person to your boss.
I like that one. I missed that one, and I think you explain it in a better depth. That's why we wanted to have you on. Number 27, the end justifies the means.
Again, that sounds terrible, but
Mm.
it's how a lot of these people live. You
Yeah.
know, it was, I gotta get to where I gotta get, and however I get there, it seems bad in the moment, but you know, Lucky did a lot of things, you know, a lot of things to get to take over the whole underworld at that time and reorganize things. But the end, you know, that they created the commission. The commission brought about like 40 years of peace in the underworld, where it was orderly. It took away the cowboy style hits, and where no rules and no regulation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you know, you have sometimes you got to do things. And Tom, I don't know, I never asked you, but I'm sure you have some thoughts in your head about
Yeah.
starting a business and things you had to do that you might look back and go, if I could do that again, I might not. But you know what? It brought me to where I had to go.
Oh God, yeah. I wish I don't regret anything I've done in business, but there were some moves that I made that I super regretted.
Yeah,
Um, that if I could do over again, I would.
yeah,
But short answer is, yeah, I think about all the time that, if I made this move or I made that move, it just kind of, sometimes jams me up.
yeah,
So, but that's an easy, well, not an easy one, but and justify the means. But sometimes you got to do things that you normally don't like to do to get things done. So I like that one. One thing that I think is missing these days, obviously, going through something that's a little kind of against community, working decentralized, Zoom, etc. But nevertheless, there's a need for number 28, build relationships.
yeah. And that's one of those things I think that people, you know, the truth of the matter is, it's especially like what I find a common trait in leaders, like real leaders, they sometimes get in like, but the immature leader,
Yeah.
the young leader, the young ambitious, I should say ambitious, not leader,
Yeah.
ambitious people that are intelligent and smart and stuff, but when they're young, they seem to think they can do it all themselves. I don't
Yeah.
need anybody. I can do it myself. I know I've suffered from that myself in my own pursuits of things that I wanted to try.
Yeah.
Is that, oh, I don't need no one. I can do it myself. But what I learned is you do better with a team around you when you got
Correct.
people who are that are smart and intelligent and have been through the process and stuff. So building relationships, having partners, having people who you can work with and get ideas from, it'll advance the ball. You will advance the ball further with a team than you will by yourself.
That's a great point. And I don't care what you say, you need relationships, you need colleagues, you need connections to this day, no matter what. Now, I like this one. Look, I think a lot of content creators should listen to this one. Number 29, respect your public.
You know, that's and the con. Oh my God, is that the truth? People don't, as content. Since you brought up content creators, I'll go down
Yeah.
that direction. Um, a lot of content creators, what I notice that they forget sometimes is that the viewer, without the viewer, there is no content creator.
Correct.
So they are the important person. I've heard you before, Tom, talk about how you study your analytics
Yes.
and you will pivot with one
Immediately. Correct.
immediately. That means that you are very conscious of your audience and
Yes.
your attempt. Even if you fail,
Yeah.
your attempt is to give them what they want.
Correct.
Now, I'll be honest with you, on my channel, some of the stuff that I talk about, it's not so much my intro. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not so much that this is what I want to talk about this week. I try
Correct.
to make videos that it seems like that the audience wants to hear about.
Correct.
So, but now in the sense of the mob, what I have noticed is that the public was used. That they used the public. So when Lucky Luciano first got deported,
Yeah.
he went back to his hometown and it was ravaged from the war. There was a disaster over there.
Yeah.
And he built this big movie theater that he paid for so
Yeah.
that people could have a place to go watch movies at.
Yeah.
You know, Gotti used to shoot fireworks off and give out
Yep.
hot dogs and do stuff like that.
Yep.
Commonly, you see it's in almost every gangster movie. The big time gangster in the neighborhood gives out turkeys and stuff around Thanksgiving time and stuff like that. So
Correct.
what they were doing, and is they were getting the public. when Gotti got convicted, the whole outside the courtroom was his public fighting for him to be free. So, you know, he was using the public because he knew he would need them one day, possibly. Keep the public on my side. It's harder for you guys to come after me if the people are with me.
Just like Pablo Escobar did in Medellin.
Yes.
People, government look for him. People don't want to help. He would provide housing, hospitals, fields for kids. Not justifying anything he did, but I'm just saying, is respect your public. I think that's probably an underrated one. Number 30, start early, be the boss in all endeavors.
Tom, let me ask you something.
Shoot.
You're an investor, you're an entrepreneur, right?
Yep, I'd like to think so.
When you were like 5 years old, 8 years old, were you brokering deals in class? Were you selling, your leftover piece of bread from lunch?
You know what I did, and I got in trouble for it. And I still don't understand why I did. A little bit older, maybe middle school, probably 12-ish. They had those books, like the Teen Bopper, and all that kind of stuff. So I remember one day I bought one, and a young girl that I went to school with is like, "Oh, I want that picture of Rob Lowe or something," and I'm like, "Oh, I guess it's $1." And she gave me $1. I ripped it out, and I looked, and I paid $1 for the book. So I would go to buy these books, and I would charge like $1, the lunch money and stuff, for rip outs of the different books until I got caught, and then I wasn't allowed to do it anymore. But yeah, I was always hustling.
Tom, that's the same story. I've been that way my whole life. I used to make Chinese stars, little stars, and sell them for a nickel in school and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just in me my whole life. I always was. What I noticed is that the boss, from a Cosa Nostra standpoint, the boss was showing leadership things even when he was with the small little street gang. Correct. Even when he was 8, he was the tough guy in the neighborhood. When he was 12, he had 5 people and they all listened to him. Like, so I find that and when I say boss for the purpose of this book, so people understand, boss just means whatever it is that you want to be in life. If you want to be a school
too, yeah.
If you want to be a school teacher, and you're 10 years old and you aspire to be a school teacher, when you get there, that's your personal boss. If you want to open up your own business and you're working to get there, when you get there, that's that's how you're the boss. So whatever you aspire to be, that's what a boss is for the purpose of why I write this book. So my point is, what I find is that if you look at any ranking person, at any person who really made something of themselves, go back into their life from an early age, and you'll see they'll have a story. They'll say things. Michael Jordan was sleeping with the basketball as a kid. When you go back into someone's early life, you'll see connections in their life as a kid and now it makes sense why they became what they became.
Good point.
So start early. I find that the early starters, I wrote every day my whole life since I learned how to use a pencil. Every day. I used to carry backpacks around and scribble. I wrote every day my whole life. So it's not an accident that I became a writer or aspiring to be a writer. It's in my early childhood.
God bless. Well, I like 31. Control the purse. The boss sends the envelope.
A lot of times you see this a lot in business.
Yeah.
You got some manager or some supervisor. He thinks he the shit. Yep. I'm the boss. And I said, The boss is the person who controls the money. Whoever's writing the check.
Writes the checks. That's right.
Exactly. So people seem to sometimes think that they're the boss. They think that they're in control. If you don't control the money, you're not the owner. You're not the boss. The guy who cuts the check is the one that makes the rules. Correct. And Lucky I talk about Lucky a lot for my historical reference point today, but Lucky realized that late in his life. He was struggling financially. He built Cosa Nostra in America, and he was getting this $25,000 stipend. And then he started talking to this writer who wanted to do a story on his life. Yep. And they didn't want the guys in New York didn't want him to do this, and he said, "Well, I need the money. I'm doing it anyway."
Yeah.
And they had the ability to just cut off his money immediately. They stopped sending him his 25,000. It got all the way down to where they sent them, I think, 3,000, and they let him know, we will wind you down to nothing if you don't do what we say. So all that for so long, and Lucky said this, all this time I thought I was the boss, but I realized the real boss was Meyer Lansky. That's what he said. He said that was a lot, and that's what happens a lot of the time. The guy who's controlling who control where the money goes, he's a powerful guy.
That's a great point. And then this is one obvious, which I love. Number 32. I won't be wrapping it up soon, but still some important ones left. Number 32. Bosses talk to other bosses.
Yeah. Well, if you're once you made it to that position, you're putting yourself in a dangerous position by still hanging out in the neighborhood, still going around these dangerous spots, still being in the alleyway, because now you have a reason for someone to take something from you. You have a lot. You're the boss. You have to be in places where the people are like, it's not by coincidence that Bill Gates and Warren Buffett go out on the boat together. They're great friends. They go on vacation together. Their wives were friends. They go out and they play cards and stuff. It's not just by accident that the world's two richest men are best friends.
Correct.
They're friends because they can understand each other. They can relate to each other. I can't hang out with Bill Gates if I wanted to. I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. So I find that ranking people drug dealers often hang out with a lot of drug dealers. Promiscuous women typically hang out with a lot of promiscuous women. Businessmen hang out with a lot of businessmen. Stockbrokers hang out with stockbrokers. It's just politicians hang out with politicians. Birds of a like feathers flock together.
Exactly. Well, that's although it was kind of an obvious one, it's a point to really kind of, again, when you really unpack the rules and you want to say, how do I really apply this to my own life? Hang out with people at your level, even better. Network and align with somebody higher and go out somebody even higher, and then they'll elevate you up. Don't hang out in the slums because you'll get brought down. Number 33, do a favor for a favor. I think this is an important one.
Yeah. I don't think that anyone should ever let anyone do anything for them for free. Correct. Offer up whatever you got, even if you, if someone gives you something or does something for you, even if you just have a ham sandwich to offer, say, hey, correct, I can make you a great sandwich. You should always want to show, you offer, hey, if you ever need something, need a sofa moved, you come knock on my door, I'll help you do that. But, favors were constantly exchanged. And I think Costello had this discussion with, I don't want to be a judge or something like that, where he helped him get into office. Yeah. And what Costello said to him after he got him in the office, the guy called and he thanked him. He said, Mr. Costello, thank you so much. I couldn't have done it without you. Yeah. And Costello said, just don't you forget that. Don't you forget when I need a favor from you.
That's a good point. It's always good to articulate it too, because some people will be squirrely and be like, exactly, I'm a judge now, I can't help you, But no, that's an important one. I like this one too. Low key, number 34, live modestly, keep a low profile.
Yeah. A lot of what you have, if you have a lot, the truth, and you should recognize the fact that a lot of people don't have a lot. Correct. So when you show a lot to people, especially people who you're leading and guiding, you're probably going to create some type of resentment. You might you might think you're inspiring them, but they're actually they're kind of probably more likely feeling some envy and stuff like that. Carlo Gambino had a very nice home somewhere else.
Yeah.
He did all of his business with his people out of that little row home in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
He had a little modest home that was connected on to another home. He drove that old white car around that, that little, he didn't show he had a lot, but he didn't put it in anyone's face. When you went to see Carlo, you went into a place that looked like where you live.
Yeah.
When you went to Gotti was the same way. He had a very, he stayed right there in Howard Beach.
Yeah.
And that is a little bit, that makes you still look human.
Yeah.
Paul made a mistake when he had all these guys coming into that big mansion.
Yep.
I mean, you're pretty much asking for people to be envious of you. And now, as soon as they have, oh shit, I gotta pay this. I got this big bill due at home, but I owe Paul 20 this month. And
Yep.
you drive over to that big house and turn in the 20. You're angry.
Yep. And it breeds resentment.
Exactly.
I know a lot of guys that do pretty well, and they won't have people at their house because they don't want people to know kind of what they have. And that makes sense. Kind of an old school Italian thing, I believe. Number 35, be informed. Wrapping up soon. Number 35, be informed. Keep abreast of the world around you.
Yeah. So, opportunities are in what's happening currently.
Correct.
It's not so much what happened yesterday, but it's what's happening now. So you see something. Let me think of a good example is when that's how Lucky got he got out of prison. So he got a what do they call it? Forget what it's called, but he got he noticed that they were having problems with sabotage.
Yeah.
On the docks.
Correct.
They orchestrated that fake bombing of the Normandy and stuff like that. And he saw an opportunity with the sabotage things that were going on, and everyone that worked down there were all Italians, and it was mostly controlled by Cosa Nostra. So Lucky knew I have enforcement ability over there, but he was just reading the news. He was just reading the press and just saw about all these problems. And he detected, wow, I might be to use this to spring myself out of jail. He was doing 35 years.
Yeah.
And he said, maybe I can get a pardon by helping the country in the war efforts.
Good point.
But if he did not, had he not knew that the government needed help landing in Sicily, had they not knew that, but he saw there's a problem in the country. There's a need that I can fulfill.
Correct.
And that he gained by doing that. So, if you don't keep up, I mean, people should keep up on the news. People should keep up on what's going on with inflation right now. You should keep up on this stuff with Ukraine and Russia, because it will affect the economy. If you're a businessman and Russia goes into Ukraine and they cut off, and then the US or Europe issues sanctions and they cut off their oil supplies and stuff like that, that could be a major impact on U.S. markets. And if you're a businessman that has all your money in these certain stocks or in a business where you have to bring your goods in through tariffs, through the border and stuff like that, you can be really lose everything because you're not paying attention. So you have to kind of pay attention on what's going on around you, or it's going to be very difficult for you to keep things going, or you might miss your opportunity or lose what you have.
Agreed. Number 36, last but not least, I've got the O. By a plot, every boss has his day.
So what I find is, of all the bosses, and my book's written researching the 5 families. I only use the 5 families to study this stuff. If you go back to the very beginning, when they first came over in the late 1800s, every single boss, everybody that rose to be the boss, 2 things happened. By and large, there's always exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
You had all the beautiful women, beautiful home, nice clothing, great cars, a lot of money. You ate at the best restaurants. They kissed the ring. You were God. You were. Life was great. But what I have noticed, the fate typically for a boss, was you die by a hail of gunfire, or you die behind the prison cell, missing your family.
Correct.
There were some people who got out and escaped.
Tony
But
Accardo, Carlo Gambino, but for the
yeah,
most part, yeah.
by and large, your fate is that you're going to have to pay for all the things you've done. I find that to be a life principle. The things you do to get somewhere, if you take shortcuts and you screw people over, I gave a lot of rules from 35 backwards
Yep.
about the end justifies the means.
Correct.
You know, loyalty is a canard and a whole bunch of other things. These are not productive human traits that
Correct.
you're screwing over your fellow man. You're going to pay for that. That is just my belief in what I have saw.
Yeah.
Typically, you're going to pay. So when I say buy a plot, so Lucky Luciano, he had a plot bought years before. That's why they flew him back over. It was already purchased. Frank Costello, he already had it prepared. I wanted to look nice when I'm in that thing.
Correct.
You know, Frank Costello, you know, so they just, so my point is that prepare yourself for when it all comes down, because it's going.
It's going down.
Yeah, if the things you did are going to come back to you, and you should be prepared for that too. Don't just prepare for don't just be prepared for all the great times. Get yourself ready, because that the only person I ever really saw who did that was one person. That was John Gotti. I got so much audio and so much tape. I mean, things I read when he said, his son talked about it when he said, "We're all going to go to jail anyway. Why are you saving your money?" He would say, and he would say, when I get 50 years, I know what I got to do. Like it wasn't even like, it was almost like he knew.
Wait, why is that one guy saving his money? What's he doing that I don't know about? What's his exit strategy is going to be? If he thinks this is different than everybody else's, he may be, good point.
That's what I have found, that he was one of the very few people that, one of my favorite things he ever said was, I watched some documentary where they said his wife was calling. Why are you not home? You haven't been home and whatever. And when are you coming home? And Gotti says, I gotta go to this court date tomorrow. If I beat that one, I'll be I go on this one next week. If I beat that one, I'll be home in 3 days. If not, I'll be home in 35 years. Yeah,
that's a good one. That's a good one. I love that you're like a student of this and you respect it, and you kind of have a lot of the pearls. Any more on 36 before we conclude?
Nope, I got 36 firm ones and all these rules. So this book, the Olive Branch, so people, there's no confusion. The Olive Branch is the original publication of 2016 that I independently published myself.
Yes.
So the book is being republished as a book called The Don, 36 Rules of the Bosses. So it's the same book with 7 additional chapters.
You know the publication date on that yet, or you're not releasing?
I don't have it yet, but we're aiming towards the summertime. So summer fall of this year, it will be out. The book's done. The book's in its final stage of editing. It's in design. So we're
you're down the home stretch. I would like to though include a link to the current one.
Yes.
I think our viewers would enjoy the read. It's a quick read, and knowing you, although the new book will have some of it, there's probably so much new stuff that it's chock full. It won't interrupt that read. You know what I mean?
I tell everybody, get this one while you can, because it's going to go away and you'll have a prized possession that might go up in value one day. So
exactly. So listen, I appreciate it. I wanted to go through each of the rules. If you watch straight through, God bless. If you had to chop it up, totally understood. Check out RJ Black Handprint Mafia. It's an excellent YouTube channel. I'm going to put that link, and I'm going to put a link to the book as well, Amazon version, because most people use Amazon. So RJ, I'll have you close our episode out.
Tom, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I've been talking to you since early on. You reached out to me, so
absolutely big fan.
You're doing really great. Your channel's growing a lot. You're getting real close to your goal. You're 10,000.
Almost at 10K. By the way, just quick reminder, everybody, please subscribe. We're basically going to probably give out more than this. The gift card said the 500 and 250. We're gonna give out 150 and 6 100s. We're gonna give out some T-shirts. We're gonna give out some books. And who knows, if you guys do it quick, maybe get you. I might throw in some 36 rules book for you too. If you guys do that. So, but anyway, RJ, I'm sorry.
No, but thank you, Tom. I really appreciate the invite. I know we talked back and forth a lot, so thanks for having me on. I admire your show. I think you're doing great. And and congratulations.
Thank you
on everything that's going on in your life. So good for
All
you.
Thanks.
Many blessings to you and your family. And I wish you health, positivity. And I always have the same recommendation to everybody. A negative never creates a positive. Positive, doesn't create a negative. You be positive, you be uplifting, you treat people well, you do the right thing in life.
Correct.
That's the way to go. I'm a big believer in that. And, so I always tell everybody that. Love everybody, treat people the way you want to be treated. Carry yourself with some respectability. It's real easy in this world today to be an asshole. But the talent is in being able to be cool-headed and be a gentleman in spite of how ugly and cruel this world can be sometimes.
Great point.
Black Handprint Mafia. Check out my channel. That's all I got.
Thanks, guys.